Look, I need to tell you about the night my whole relationship imploded, and how one stupid feature on my phone basically destroyed everything I'd been carefully managing for months. I'm Diana. I'm 33, and I thought I had this whole situation under control until technology decided to screw me over. Wyatt and I had been together for about 18 months. He's this overly accommodating guy who works in some tech support role, the kind of man who says no problem at all when you cancel plans and actually means it, which, between us, made him incredibly easy to manage. He had his own place. I had mine. And we'd been talking about maybe moving in together eventually. Nothing rushed. Just the natural progression of two adults who got along well enough. The thing is, Cameron had reached out to me about a month before everything went sideways. My ex-boyfriend. The one I dated for 2 years before Wyatt came along. Cameron's always been more intense than Wyatt. More unpredictable. More exciting. Definitely better looking. When he texted saying his father had passed away and he was struggling, what was I supposed to do? Ignore someone who needed support. So yeah, I started meeting up with Cameron just to talk, to help him through his grief. Was I supposed to tell Wyatt about it? The man gets weird about me having male friends, and this was clearly a temporary situation. Cameron needed someone who understood him, someone from his past who could relate to what he was going through. It wasn't like I was doing anything wrong. We were just talking. The cancellation started small. Sorry, babe. Work emergency. Rain check. Wyatt responded exactly like I knew he would. Understanding. Accommodating. Telling me not to worry about it. The second time, I said my mom wasn't feeling well, and I needed to check on her. Again, complete acceptance from Mr. Understanding by the third and fourth times. I was getting more creative with the excuses. Sudden migraines. Family obligations. You know how it is. Cameron was going through so much, his grief was really affecting him, and our conversations would stretch for hours. Sometimes I'd lose track of time completely, sitting in his apartment just listening to him process everything. He'd always been good at making me feel needed, like I was the only person who really got him. Wyatt never made me feel that essential. He was too self-sufficient, too content with whatever scraps of attention I gave him. The 6th time this month, I sent Wyatt the same type of message. Can't make it tonight. Something came up. We were supposed to have dinner at some restaurant he'd picked for our anniversary. 18 months together. Not exactly a milestone worth disrupting my evening with Cameron over. I figured Wyatt would respond with his usual no problem, and probably just eat alone or order takeout. What I didn't expect was for my phone to start buzzing 40 minutes later with a delivery notification. Someone was at Cameron's building asking for him specifically, saying they had flowers that needed to be picked up from the main office. Cameron went down to get them, and when he came back up, his expression was different. Diana, these are for you. 24 red roses. Beautiful, actually. With a card attached. I opened it, expecting maybe an apology from Wyatt for some imaginary slight, or perhaps a romantic gesture to make up for the canceled dinner. Instead, I read, Diana, since you keep having something come up, I figured I'd save you the trouble of making excuses. We're done. Enjoy your evening with Cameron. P.S. Your location sharing is still on. Might want to fix that. Wyatt. That's when it hit me. The location sharing. We'd set it up last year when I went on a work trip and he wanted to make sure I landed safely. I'd completely forgotten about it, which meant he'd been able to see exactly where I was every single time I'd canceled on him. My hands were shaking as I tried calling him. Straight to voicemail. Called again, voicemail. Again, voicemail. Cameron was reading the card over my shoulder, and I could feel his judgment even though he wasn't saying anything. This was supposed to be discreet. Private. Between us. Now Wyatt had made it into this huge dramatic scene. I started texting frantically. Wyatt, please answer. Then, it's not what you think. Then, the flowers were delivered to the wrong place. I was grasping, but what else could I do? I'm at my mom's. Please, just let me explain. Nothing. Radio silence. He'd turned off his read receipts, so I couldn't even tell if he was seeing my messages. Cameron was being weird about the whole thing, asking if maybe he should leave. If this was going to cause problems for me, as if he hadn't been the one insisting he needed my support all these weeks. I barely slept that night. Every scenario ran through my head. What I'd say, how I'd explain, how I'd make him understand that this wasn't what it looked like. Cameron and I were just friends. He was grieving. I was being a decent human being by supporting someone through a difficult time. Wyatt was being paranoid and controlling by tracking my location and making assumptions. The next morning, I checked where Wyatt was. Still had his location. Thankfully, he was at his apartment. I drove over there, determined to clear this up face to face. His car was in the parking lot, so I knew he was home. I knocked on his door, called his name, waited. 20 minutes of standing there like an idiot while he ignored me. Wyatt, I know you're in there. Your car's here. Please, just give me 5 minutes. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I could see his shadow moving around inside through the window. So I knew he was deliberately ignoring me. The disrespect was unbelievable. After 18 months together, he couldn't even have a conversation. My friends started texting me within hours. Apparently Wyatt had reached out to them. Or they'd heard through someone else. I'm not sure. Megan was furious on my behalf. What did you do to Diana? She's hysterical. Seriously? Flowers with a breakup note. That's cold. Sophia was more diplomatic but equally unhelpful. Diana made a mistake. But she loves you. Don't throw away something good over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? That's exactly what it was. But Wyatt was too stubborn to listen to reason. When Sophia tried to explain this to him, he apparently sent her some sarcastic response about how being at my ex's apartment for 3 hours during our anniversary dinner was just talking. The man had no concept of nuance. I decided to try a different approach. If he wouldn't talk to me privately, maybe I could reach him at work? I knew where his office was, and I figured seeing me in person might snap him out of whatever petty mood he was in. Security wouldn't let me up without a badge, but I could wait in the lobby. I brought coffee, settled in, and prepared to wait as long as necessary. 4 hours. 4 hours I sat there, while his coworkers gawked at me through the glass doors. I could see them talking about me, probably gossiping about the crazy girlfriend who wouldn't take a hint. It was humiliating, but what choice did I have? Wyatt was being completely unreasonable. Finally, he came down at lunch. He looked tired, irritated, like I was some kind of inconvenience rather than the woman he'd been planning a future with just days before. You have 2 minutes and we're talking right here in public, he said. Public. Like I was some kind of threat who couldn't be trusted alone with him. But fine, if that's what it took. Wyatt, thank God. Please just listen. I glanced around at all the people pretending not to watch us. Can we at least go outside? 1 minute, 50 seconds. So I explained Cameron's father had died. He was struggling, drinking too much, talking about doing something stupid. I was trying to help by being there for him, by listening when he needed someone to talk to. Was I supposed to just ignore someone who was in pain? So call 911, call his mom, call literally anyone except the girlfriend who swore she had no contact with him. Wyatt said. He was being deliberately obtuse. I was trying to help. I knew you'd react like this, so I didn't want to worry you unnecessarily. You knew I'd react badly to you lying and sneaking around with your ex. So you lied and snuck around with your ex. Brilliant logic, Diana. The sarcasm was unnecessary. It wasn't like that. Nothing happened. Your location was at his apartment for 3 hours on our anniversary. We were just talking. That's when he said something that really pissed me off. Here's the thing. I don't care if you were talking, playing Scrabble, or conducting a seance to speak to his dead father. You lied 6 times minimum. You chose him over us over and over. We're done. And he just walked away. Left me standing there in front of his office building, like some kind of stalker. I waited another hour, hoping he'd come back down, but security eventually asked me to leave. That evening, Cameron called Wyatt directly. I couldn't believe the audacity. I specifically asked him not to get involved, to let me handle this my way. But no, he had to insert himself into the situation and make everything worse. From what Cameron told me afterward, Wyatt was completely unreasonable. Cameron tried to explain that we had history, that sometimes people need closure, that he was going through a difficult time and I was just being a good friend. Wyatt apparently made some comment about how closure takes 6 secret meetings and hung up on him. The whole situation was spiraling out of control. Wyatt was being vindictive and cruel, refusing to listen to any explanation that didn't fit his narrow interpretation of events. My mom even tried calling him to mediate, to help him understand that I have a big heart. And sometimes that means helping people even when it's complicated. That conversation didn't go well either. Apparently Wyatt had done some kind of internet research and claimed that Cameron's father had died years ago, not recently, which was ridiculous. Why would Cameron lie about something like that? But when I asked Cameron about it, he got defensive and changed the subject, so I couldn't get a straight answer. The worst part was when Wyatt posted about the whole thing on social media. A screenshot of my location at Cameron's apartment with some petty caption about location sharing and cheating. It was a complete violation of my privacy. Airing our personal business for everyone to see. Mutual friends who had been supporting me suddenly started asking questions, wanting to know why I'd lied about where I was. I was furious. After everything I'd done to try to fix this situation. He was publicly humiliating me. So yeah, I keyed his car, deep scratch from front to back on the driver's side. If he wanted to play games and embarrass me in front of everyone we knew, he could deal with some consequences too. I even texted him about it. Hope you like your car's new paint job. That's what you get for humiliating me. Within days, I was being served with small claims court papers. Apparently, my text message was evidence of property damage, and he was suing me for the repair costs plus emotional distress. The whole thing was absurd. I'd scratched his car, not burned down his house, but he was determined to drag this out as long as possible. I brought Cameron to court with me for moral support, thinking it might help to have a witness to how reasonable I'd been throughout this whole ordeal. The judge asked me directly if I'd lied about my whereabouts and if I'd damaged Wyatt's vehicle. When I tried to explain the context, she cut me off and said she only wanted yes or no answers. $2,400? That's what she ordered me to pay for a stupid scratch on his car. Plus court costs? I couldn't afford to pay it all at once, so I'm stuck making monthly payments for the next 15 months. $200 every month. A constant reminder of how petty and vindictive Wyatt turned out to be. Cameron and I moved in together pretty quickly after that. It seemed like the natural next step. And honestly, Wyatt had pushed us together with his dramatic overreaction to our friendship. But 3 weeks after I moved in, I caught Cameron texting his own ex-girlfriend. Long conversations, late-night messages. The same kind of emotional support he'd claimed he needed from me. When I confronted him about it, he said it was different. She was going through a divorce and needed someone to talk to. The hypocrisy was unbelievable. Here I was, making payments to my ex-boyfriend because Cameron had needed my support. And now he was doing the exact same thing with someone else. We're still together, but things are tense. Cameron says I'm being paranoid and controlling, that I should trust him the way I wanted Wyatt to trust me. But it's not the same thing at all. My situation with Cameron was about grief and loss. His thing with his ex is just, I don't know what it is, but it feels different. Meanwhile, I hear through mutual friends that Wyatt is doing great. He went on that vacation we were supposed to take together, to Cabo, alone, and apparently had an amazing time. He's dating someone new now, some woman he met through work who thinks his flower delivery breakup was iconic. She doesn't know the whole story. Obviously, she doesn't know how he tracked my location like some kind of stalker, or how he refused to listen to any reasonable explanation. Every month when that $200 payment comes out of my account, I think about how different things could have been if Wyatt had just been more understanding. If he'd trusted me enough to let me explain, without jumping to conclusions. If he'd been mature enough to handle a complicated situation like an adult instead of throwing a tantrum and involving lawyers. People act like I'm the one who messed up, like I should have handled things differently. But I was trying to help someone who was grieving. I was being a good friend to someone who needed support. The fact that Cameron happened to be my ex-boyfriend shouldn't have mattered. Wyatt should have trusted me enough to know that I wouldn't do anything to hurt our relationship. Instead, he chose to believe the worst about me. He chose to end an 18-month relationship over what was essentially a misunderstanding. He chose to publicly humiliate me and then sue me for having an emotional reaction to his cruelty. So yeah, maybe I should have been more transparent about spending time with Cameron. Maybe I should have found a way to explain the situation that wouldn't have set off Wyatt's insecurities. But his response was completely disproportionate to what actually happened. And now I'm the one paying for it, literally, while he gets to play the victim and move on with his life like nothing happened. The whole thing just proves that I never really knew him at all. The man I thought was understanding and accommodating turned out to be petty and vindictive when things didn't go his way. Maybe it's better that I found out now, before we moved in together, before we got even more serious. At least now I know what he's really like when he doesn't get his way.